Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to Chull or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. I'm Gaarawarr, and with me today is Martin, doing the moderating and the producing, grabbing your questions from chat, making the code, which, you know, if you go to the shop and you hit unlock a locked chest and you copy paste it in from chat, gets you a chest. Look at that, it's that easy. It's that easy. If you're not copy pasting and you're just typing it in, you got to switch it from 12 to 16 digits because there's both. Today's topic, we are continuing from last week. First two-parter. We are doing Gaarawarr's Guide to Ramping Champions Part 2. Last week we covered such fine examples of ramping champions as Black Viper, Jaheira, Nova, Beetle and Grim, and Blueshie. We have 5 more to talk about today. I know there's only 4 on my screen, but that's because two of them share a slot. There's actually like 3 ramping champions in the same slot. It's a lot. Black Viper's here, Xerophon clearly, and Freely. So we'll bring Freely in a bit and talk about Freely. I want to be clear. People are like, what are ramping champions? And this isn't something that's actually defined in the game. This is a me term. Trying to make sure that when we have conversations about different types of champions, we're using words that can help differentiate between the two. We have things that are kind of like ramping champions, but they're permanently ramping champions. I refer to those as permanent stacking champions. Zorbu, well, Black Viper to a degree, Zorbu, Toragar, Dahani, and now just announced Nahara coming out Wednesday. These are permanent stacking champions who have like a ramping feature, except it continues between adventures. Whereas for a ramping champion, to me, that's just in an adventure, in this Terror in the Dark free play, they're going to be able to build stacks that ramp up one of their abilities, but when we go to a different adventure, everything resets. Everything resets. So yes. I'm going to address one question in chat because this is something I was about to talk about. There are also a couple champions that I actually don't refer to as ramping champions. Briv is one of them. Thank you, Sinister Beer. Briv is one of them. Strix is one of them, or Kira is one of them. This is because, to me, a ramping champion needs to be put in right away. When you start your run, they have to go in immediately, because it is a function of the amount of time you have them in, that allows them to ramp up, right? Like there's something like last week we talked about Nova and the fact that Nova and Blushi and Black Viper all kind of their ramping functionality functions the same way. It functions off completing boss levels. And if you put them in after a boss level, they can't go back. They can't go back and just stack stuff up. They've missed it. So their ramp starts later, and the later you start a ramp, the less of a bonus you're gonna see. But if you start at the beginning, you get more of a bonus, right? People like Briv and Strix and Orkira, their kind of stacking feature doesn't depend on them being in right away. In fact, they don't even stack right away. Not really. Briv is based off being attacked, and you can run, depending on what your click damage is like, you can run hundreds upon hundreds of levels without ever getting touched. Strix requires you to die, or Kira needs to heal. And until she's at max, she isn't really doing a whole lot, right? But people like these, and we're going to talk about what makes these a little different. People like these require you to put them in for as long as possible. They start ramping up the moment you activate their ability. They're going to start ramping as long as they meet their trigger requirements, right? So I know it's real fiddly, but folks, there's lots of they don't all go in the, unfortunately they can't all fit in the same box because it's like it's a genus species issue, right? So that's what we're going to deal with today. So all of these champions need to be in as early as possible, preferably right away. Obviously there's some who you might not be able to afford right away. But it's all about, how much favor you have. Can you put them in right away? Can you start ramping them up, right? Ideally, though, you are doing this as early as possible. And these kind of champions, unlike those others, these kind of champions do better for you the further you're pushing. So the deeper you're going in an adventure, the better these champions become. Again, I mentioned last week, we talked about Black Viper, Jaheira, Nova, Beetle and Grimm, and Blushi. These are kind of, Beetle and Grimm is they're in there. Theirs is time based, but it kind of, the earlier they're in and the longer they go in their form, the better, right? But these are champions who need to be collecting their things, and the more they're collecting their things, the stronger they're going to become. The longer they're in. So if you're just doing some variants or regular adventure completions, and you're only going a couple hundred levels, they're going to do okay. They're going to be functional. But you're not going to see the true power that they have to offer of these fully operational Death Star. No. True power that they have to offer until you're going like 500, 700, 1,000 levels. It really is going to depend on gear compared to anything else. Okay. Let's start off with the champion that should have a book named after them. Unfortunately, that hack Van Richten got it named after them instead. Esmeralda, Davenir, Monster Hunter. They're a human fighter wizard. I'm like, What's their ramping feature again? Oh yeah, okay. It's Saturday, folks. But hey, we're at a new later time, so I got a couple hours of sleep last night. Firebolt is their basic attack. They actually, despite that sword on their hip, they attack with a magic base attack. And their ultimate basically makes debuffs even better than they already are. I mean, I don't know who thought that needed to happen, but Q Esmeralda. Esmeralda causes the enemy with the most debuffs active to take 50% more damage for each active debuff on them, stacking multiplicatively. So, let's say you've got Orkira's debuff. You've got Krull with multiple debuffs. I don't know. I think do all three of them count? Probably. Freely's got 4, so now we're up to 8. I don't have that many fingers on one hand. That's just with 3 champions, and then you're getting 50% for each of them multiplicatively. If you're running Esmeralda with debuffers, that ultimate can suddenly drop the availability. It's basically a big stacking debuff, multiplicatively stacking debuff like Freely and Krull, and those are the broken debuffs. So that's their ultimate. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. Alright. Abilities. The Devil's Playthings. This increases damage of champions in Esmeralda's column against undead creatures. Against some kind of creatures. She starts off as undead. Her niche is strongly in I'm gonna hate this kind of creature and we're gonna kill them together. That's what she does. And she's fantastic in that niche. Training montage. Esmeralda marks enemies as she trains the champions with her vampire hunting skills. This has 3 features. Pause. Esmeralda marks every 3rd enemy that spawns with this debuff. Once marked, the target gains 1 stack every 3 seconds to a max of 10 stacks. For each stack, champions in Esmeralda's columns deal an additional amount of damage against the target. Again, this is every 3rd enemy, but there's ways we can... There's a spec for that. We'll talk about it when we get there. Prepare. Esmeralda marks every enemy she attacks with this debuff. If the enemy has armor or hits-based health, champions in Esmeralda's column remove an extra chunk when dealing damage to them. Otherwise, the enemy's max health is reduced by 50%. So, when she attacks, she's either going to cut a regular enemy's health in half, which is a big deal, or... I mean, it's an okay deal. We're dealing with large numbers. It's an okay deal. The bigger deal is, or if it's got armor or hit-based health, you get double credit. Any enemy with armor or hit-based health in her column. So she is great as a way to help chew through those armor chunks faster. For me, if you have her, by the time you go to fight Valindra's Shadow Mantle to unlock Dragon Bait, Valindra's undead, and she's armored. Esmeralda's like, no, thank you for bringing me along. Yeah. So, big deal against the right enemies, right? Again, her niche, certain types of hated enemies, and armor and hit-based stuff, right? Parry. The first time a non-boss enemy attacks, the attack misses. So this is a nice survivability feature for your tanks. Now, keep in mind, she has to mark them with this, is my understanding. So I don't know if it just automatically works to keep Shandy's stuff from happening, but... It was weird hearing how people pronounce niche and swath different than I do. Yeah, I mean, you could say niche. And I feel like they're both effectively acceptable at this point in history. Threat tracking. Here we go, folks. This is the ramping feature. You got to get all the way to 135 to unlock it. Esmeralda tracks the creatures. I'm not going to say undead because, again, there's a spec for that. The creatures the champions kill while she is in the formation, increasing the effect of the Devil's Playthings by a percent, a decimal percent, for each undead tracked. So... Again, we're going to talk about specialization. We can start changing what she hates. But originally, undead creatures is what we're starting off with. So if you are dealing with undead, Like, hey, if you're existing in Tomb of Annihilation, uh, you're going to ramp this up. You want her in right away. You want her to 135 as quick as possible, and you want to start killing all the things because she's going to get this stack, this ramping stack, for everything she kills. For everything she kills. That is her ramping feature. So, the more things you kill, the better. Now, could you just farm this up later? Could you just sit and farm and farm and farm at a later thing? Sure. But here's the thing. If you already have to go through all of those levels, it makes no sense for you to then put her in late and then just AFK for hours trying to farm this up, right? It is about ramping, getting her in right away, ramping up that bonus as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. Keep in mind, you know, if you're doing things like briv jumping or you're reducing the number of enemies you have to kill in a level, obviously Esmeralda then doesn't ramp as well. So things to keep in mind. Specializations. So she has two sets of specializations. This first one helps you tailor her ramping feature and her bonuses to the type of enemy you're dealing with. Stay on target keeps things as undead. Fiendish stature makes it about fiends, which is great for so undead, great for Tomb of Annihilation. Fiendish stature switches it to fiends, great for Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, right? Devil wears many masks. This is humanoids. Well, folks, there's humanoids everywhere. They're like ants. They're all over the place. So if that's what you're dealing with, great. Monstrous intentions is monstrosities. So you have the ability to tailor Esmeralda to the specific your adventure on if you know in advance what's going on there. If it's a hard adventure, you're probably going to maybe look it up online and find out who you're dealing with, and then you set her up for success, right? We're going to go ahead and yeah, we'll just stay on undead for now. All of the stuff that you have ramped up before then, she maintains those stacks, even if you switch your threat tracking around. Just so we're clear. Second set of specializations affects how her training montage affects in a couple ways, and then buffs Devil's Playthings. So smells like a trap. Esmeralda now marks every enemy that spawns with training montage pause. This is that debuff. So you can make sure it's on everything if you want to do this. I'll be honest, that's generally what I do. I like everything debuffed. So this tends to be where I go. We've trained for this, means that training montage pause, training montage prepare, and the Devil's Playthings now affect all champions in the formation. This is one of those things where if you can't put Esmeralda in the same column, you might want to go here. Or if you're in some kind of a really specific situation where you're not even worried about that, you just want everybody to trigger these things, you can make it happen. Again, I tend to go smells like a trap. He's still out there, increases the effect of the Devil's Playthings by 300%. This is just a straight bonus. If you're okay with the RNG nature of 1 and 3 for the debuff, you can just go straight damage. There we go. Let's get her leveled up, and a familiar dropped on her. I think that's all. I can't memorize every. Okay, yeah, it smells like a trap. Okay, that's it. So her you can keep track of her ramping feature over here under threat tracking. We already have over 600 stacks. Doing pretty good. So you can see it's ramping up slowly because again it is a small number. It was like 0.229%. You can see now it's over 7% per. Why is that? Well, she's got things that affect this. So if we come over to items, we've got a pair of damage all champions items because she is a support champion. We can increase training montage, so that's all the different parts of training montage get increased in one. This is a super effective item. We can increase Devil's Playthings, and we can increase threat tracking. That's the big one. this is the ramping item. So this is why we went from 0.2% or whatever to 7% per. This makes getting this up there makes things so much nicer. We can also reduce the cooldown on her ultimate attack, and again, that's that multiplicative debuff, multiplicative debuff. It's based on debuffs. Damage all champions items. We can do training montage or feats. Excuse me. Damage all champions feats. We can do training montage. Again, increasing the effects. We can go for Devil's Playthings, or we can go for threat tracking. Ghosts of the Past. That's actually probably where I should have. We should do this. There we go. 40%. And now if we go back, it's even nicer. It's now 10.24%. So I've made my threat tracking even better, right? That's a solid combination for you if you like. I like. That's Esmeralda, folks. So again, I think Esmeralda has a lot of people are like, well, she's not great everywhere. Well, no, she's a champion that has a time and a place to use her, and when you use her in that time and their place, she really shines. So so against enemies, lots of enemies she doesn't like, that she wants to track against in your adventure, and the boss is matching that, she's going to just be amazing. If they're also armored or hit based on top of that, you're going to chew right through them. All right. Next up, let's do Elliewick. Let's jump all the way over here to Slotin. Elliewick Tumblestrom joined us through the crossover between Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. She's a Magic card promotional crossover champion. Yeah. She's a gnome bard. The greatest bard in the multiverse is what she wished for. Healing, support, and gold. Yeah. We'll talk about this. Some of those are stronger features than others. Basic attack is Quick Strum. Elliewick strums her guitar, sending out musical energy to attack up to 3 random enemies. Nice for hits-based thing, because hits-based things just need 1 damage to remove. It doesn't really, because she's not a DPS, she's not going to help you out with armored stuff or anything like that. Ultimate is Call of the Feywild. The ultimate is the healing part. That's why I'm kind of like, Elliewick draws 6 Feywild creatures to her. Hold on, my signal, folks. Here we go. It doesn't, you're not going to see anything. There. She just kind of went, psh, go get them, boys, and girls and non-binary friends. And then that was it. That's the ultimate. Call of the Feywild, though. Elliewick draws 6 Feywild creatures to her. They appear on the right side of the screen and dash towards her across the enemies, dealing damage as they pass by. Once they're gathered, powerful following is increased by 200%. We'll talk about that. It's one of her buffs. For 15 seconds, and all champions adjacent to Elliewick are healed for 50% of their max health. So this is an adjacent healing feature that's triggered by the ultimate. After 15 seconds, they dash off again to the right, dealing damage again. Double damage dealing thing that has an adjacent heal. Here we go. See, they ran right across. That was real quick. They would have damaged everything there, but, we're on level 1. Now they sit, and they're going to sit there, and we're going to buff. They healed everybody when they got there, but nobody was damaged. So you can manipulate this ultimate. If you need to heal in situations with Elliewick, you can always move Elliewick to be in a place where she has the most adjacencies, then hit the ultimate, heal everybody around you, then move her back to her normal position. She's fine with that. All right, folks. The deck of many things. As you can see, I'm scrolling multiple pages here. Elliewick is built around the deck of many things. The deck of many things, if you don't know Dungeons & Dragons, is a very RNG, good, bad, meh type of thing, where you draw a card from the deck, and it's either probably going to kill you, going to make your life the best thing you've ever imagined, or just kind of something on the spectrum in between those things. That's what it does. And in this game, yeah, I'd say that still applies. So Elliewick, her ramping feature is based off the deck, and based off pulling cards from the deck. Did I say it? I said Dungeons and Dragons. Didn't I say Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah, whatever. It's a Dungeons and Dragons thing, folks. So she is going, because of this, her ramping feature is kind of randomly generated. You can try and affect it to a certain degree. We'll get there. But you have to put her in. You have to let her build up her stacks, and then you have to see, well, did I end up with a good result, a bad result, or just kind of somewhere in between, right? And so, so she may not be, you may put her in from the beginning, you may run her whole adventure, and then you may be like, well, I've got to take her out because she ended up not great and somebody else can do a better job. But the thing is she could end up fantastic. In which case, it was a good time of visiting. You don't lose a whole lot unless you're replacing her, unless you're putting somebody else in her place that also has a ramping feature. Yeah, so keep that in mind. All right, let me read through this giant wall of text. Elliewick draws a random card from the deck of many things, gaining a random effect from the list below. The effect persists until she draws a new card. She draws a new random card from the deck of many things after completing 100 areas while being in the formation. This card replaces any card she is already holding. She could draw the same card multiple times during an adventure, but cannot draw the same one twice in a row. So, 100 areas is her trigger, folks. Clearly, if you're only going to 200, she's not really going to be super effective. She'll be okay, but she doesn't get anywhere remotely into her actual power there. But if you're going to 800, you're starting to ramp some stacks. As the game expands and we're able to push further and further and further, there are people that go to 2,000, folks. As we can go to further and further and further, she has the potential to do incredible amounts of damage. Or buffing, I should say. All right. The 3 different there's 5 different stacks. I just only care about 3 of them. Night, Moon, the Fates, Flames, and Gem. I guess Flames is a card, not a stack. Or the Fates is a card, not a stack. But yeah. So I only care about 3 of the stacks. So here we go. Night grants 1 night stack for every 100 enemies defeated while this card is active. So this is, not only is it about the card, it's also about defeating enemies when this specific card is pulled. So you while this card is up, you got to kill at least 100 enemies. Preferably more. It's gonna stack up. So night stacks affect the Elliewick's powerful following ability, which will be explained in a bit. The maximum of 25 night stacks can be earned each time the card is active. So 2,500 enemies while it's active to get you maximum stacks. So that's not going to happen. Well, technically what it's saying is if you had, because it's 100 areas, if you are killing 25 enemies per area, which you're not because boss levels only do 11. Then you'd max this out just naturally. So there is some farming that would be needed to truly max this out. A little bit of active play. Keep that in mind. All night stacks persist after the card is discarded. Okay, Moon grants 1 moon stack for each boss loot stack earned while this card is active. Again, so this means you absolutely want Elliewick in right away. I mean, you already did because you got to travel 100 areas with her, but this means you want her in before the first boss. And you want her in at level 20 before the first boss, potentially so she could grab stuff from a loot sack, right? So, grants 1 moon stack for each boss loot sack earned while this card is active. Moon stacks affect Elliewick's greatest song in the multiverse ability. A maximum of 20 moon stacks can be earned each time the card is active. Because, folks, there's a boss every 5 levels, 100 areas, that's math is 20, right? Only 50% of the total moon stacks persist after the card is discarded, rounded up. Rounded up. The Fates. This disables all existing stacks from the deck of many things while this card is active. This means your damage bonuses from deck of many things all go away. This one's rough. This is why we only like 3 of these. This is the kind of the bad card to get to a certain degree because, well, it depends on the timing. Yeah. We don't like this one for lots of reasons, folks. This basically makes Elliewick lose an entire ability for 100 areas. The reward is when the card's discarded, so when you draw a new card. After those 100 areas, all existing stacks amounts are increased by 25%, rounded up. So they're trying to give you, a bonus for making it through effectively a power valley, because you're going like this as you're wrapping up with Elliewick, and then Fates. You're dropping back down to just no bonuses whatsoever. The earlier this happens, the less of a bonus you'd get, but also the less effect it has against you. But if you get it like right at your wall, you're just toast. There went everything you ever need, everything you ever earned through the whole adventure, right? If you get it right before your wall, and can go the 100 levels to get rid of it, and have the power in the rest of your formation to go those 100 levels to get rid of it, yeah, 25%. That's nice. It's just, again, the deck of many things. It could be amazing, it can be horrible, and it can be everything in between. And this is a major example of that, right? Flames is the other one we don't care about and we don't want ever. Flames, well, I want a couple stacks of flames. I like the speed effect, but I'm weird. Flames grants 1 flame stack when this card is drawn. All monsters move 100% faster and deal 100% more damage while this card is active for each flame stack you have, stacking additively. All flame stacks persist after the card is discarded. I like this because I like it when enemies run faster to me to die on my sword. And 100% damage isn't horrible. So having 1 or 2 of these, I don't have a huge problem with. But if you get lots of them, obviously, no good, very bad things, right? No good, very bad things. And gem, the other one that we actually care about. No holograms here, but just gems. Gain 1 gem stack for every 3 gems collected while this card is active. Again, gems come off of... gems come off of boss loot sacks, so we want her in as early as possible. Gem stacks affect Elliewick's Fortunate Soul ability. A maximum of 20 gem stacks can be earned each time this card is active. Again, because it's based off bosses. Only 75% of the total gem stacks persist after the card is discarded. Rounded up. Okay, time to talk about what the heck does all this mean. Because right now we just know that these stacks, this is her ramping feature. What we know is that when she draws a card every 100 levels, it creates stacks, and it creates a use of that card that enables us to gain stacks that buff some kind of abilities that we don't even have yet. So, powerful following. This is the knight card. Elliewick increases the damage of champions in the column behind her. This ability is increased by 10% for each knight stack that Elliewick has, stacking additively. Okay, so this is your formation placement queue. This means Elliewick needs to be in front of your DPS. The column in front of your DPS. Unless you're using like Artemis or Archon shenanigans, right? Greatest song in the multiverse. This is the... Moon? Yes, this is the Moon stack. Or the Moon card. Elliewick plays music that emboldens the heart of her allies and saps the will of her enemies. This ability decreases the max health of enemies by 50%. So again, cutting their health in half. Right now I have 2 of those. I've got someone who cuts the health in half and another person who cuts their health in half in my formation. For every 5 moon stacks, the enemy health debuff is applied again, stacking multiplicatively. That's the good way with itself. if you get a lot of people like this when they're running like click debuff stuff, if you get a lot of moon stacks, you basically get cut their health in half, cut their health in half again, cut their health in half again, cut their health in half again, right? The health numbers, because we're dealing with large numbers, that multiplicative, that, you know, cutting in half and then cutting in half again and then cutting in half again and then cutting in half again. It's never going to get to 0, but you can reduce it a nice amount, So keep that in mind. People like, if they get a lot of these, they'll throw into like click debuff formations. But you know, I mean, it works for any kind of formation. If you get a lot of these, it's going to be nice, and yeah, just is. Fortunate Soul, this is the gem card. Gold find is increased by 50%. Its ability is increased by 5% for each gem stack Elliewick has, stacking additively. This is what a lot of people, if they're going to be doing like a deep run for Azaka farming, they'll throw Elliewick in level 1, and they'll try to see if they can get lots of gem stacks. They'll rely on something, you know, other stacks to push deep, and they'll just try to get a lot of gems. Honestly, sometimes even just throwing her in, she might be better than some other gem find people or gold find people you have, even if she doesn't have stacks, because she still does have a base gold find bonus, right? So let's talk about specs. There's a song in there somewhere. For the fans, this is the night one. The faster tempo is for moon. All that sparkles is for gem. What happens here is we change our focus. So, for the fans, the effect of night stacks and powerful following is increased to 25% per stack. In addition, the chance to draw the night card is increased by 10%. While the chance to draw moon and gems are decreased by 5%. So what they're trying to do is get you more night stacks at the cost of everything else. You're gonna have to make that bargain somewhere through here. Keep in mind, this doesn't reduce the chance for you to draw fates or flames. Yeah. So you're choosing a bit of a bonus at the cost of something else. So if you're all about that powerful following buff, you would try to go you would go for the fans. Faster tempo does the same thing, but it only takes 3 moon stacks instead of 5 to increase the effect of Greatest Song in the Multiverse. So this lets it ramp up faster. Remember, this is the debuff, so yeah, could be neat. Same 10%, 5% for all of these change. And then for all that sparkles, the effect of gem stacks on Fortunate Soul is increased to 7.5% per stack. So more gold find, right? I'm just going to go faster tempo. But depending on what I'm doing, I might change my mind. This is a little more situational specific than some specializations might get. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's it. Everything is built around the deck of many things and the abilities that it buffs. Item-wise, a pair of damage all champions items. We can buff Powerful Falling. We can buff Fortunate Soul. We can buff damage. We can buff Gold Find. What we can't buff with an item is that health reduction. They're not going to let you do that, folks. That would get a little wild. We get ultimate attack damage. It doesn't change the healing you get, just the damage that it does when they run through people. And we get a cooldown reduction item. Feats, damage all champions, gold find. You can tell what I use her for usually. We get powerful following bonuses, and we get another gold find. Yeah, I had that one in. We get another gold find through the Fortunate Soul multiplier, and that's it. So that's Elliewick, folks. Next up is Xerophon. Xerophon, unlike most of these champions, or all of these other champions, these other champions were event champions, can be unlocked in either an event or a time gate. Xerophon is an evergreen. So Xerophon is the wild beyond. Xerophon is the Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. Evergreen. Sorry, we did Blushi last week. Blushi's the wild Valen Witchlight. Evergreen. Xerophon is a doppelganger rogue. Non-binary, pronouns they, them. Support. They're all about support. Their base attack is stab. Xerophon stabs a random enemy. Yeah, I'd say that description's pretty accurate. And the name goes right with it. I mean, it just says what it is. The ultimate is what Xerophon's kit is built around, which is an odd thing to say. Xerophon's odd in the way that they function. So let's talk about the ultimate. Perfect imitation. Xerophon picks an enemy from the current adventure and imitates them for 60 seconds. While the imitation lasts, Xerophon does not attack, but increases the damage of all champions. If the enemy has been seen in the past 15 seconds, the damage increase is further buffed. So, you'll note, this is a buff that lasts 60 seconds. The cooldown base, 500 seconds. Xerophon's kit is about using your ultimate as much as possible. And we'll talk about that. This is the ramping feature. The ramping feature for Xerophon is smash that ult. You literally, once you get Xerophon in your formation, you want to park a familiar on his ultimate. Their ultimate, excuse me. Park a familiar on their ultimate so that it's going off as often as possible. All right, let's talk about that. Oh. I guess we can't. I guess we have to talk about how you reduce things first. Specializations, I forgot. They dive right into their to specialization stuff. So here is one of the tricky things about Xerophon. You want to build Xerophon. You want to pick Xerophon specializations after building your entire formation. Like, you want to build your entire formation, then you want to put Xerophon in, and then you want to start making choices about their specializations. Because they're going to go high-low. They play a high-low game. They have 6 specialization options. Each one is based off a stat. High stat, low stat. That's the game we're playing. You pick the one... Oh, two. You pick the one that has the highest number. If they're equal like this, just go with one. But the idea here is we want to pick the one that's the highest number, because if you read here, whatever you choose decreases the cooldown of perfect imitation by 10 seconds for every other champion in the formation with a stat score of 13 or higher or 12 or lower. This is what we're doing. Whatever stat, we're just doing it stat by stat. They've got these champions in formation targeted numbers down here. You can literally just follow the numbers. Pick the high number. Pick the high number. This is a tie, but I don't have a full formation. Again, normally I would be building out my entire formation, and then I would pick this. But demonstration, right? As I level up, they're going to have more of these all the time. Hey, I got 4 of them here. What you'll see is the cooldown is going down. If I had triggered the ultimate, the cooldown would also still, every time I updated a specialization, the cooldown would reduce automatically. It would reduce automatically. So I'm going through. Again, we're just I'm trying to choose the highest number. If it's a tie, I'm just picking one because it's not going to matter. There we go. Got them all. Got them, coach. All right. So with this horrible formation, I've reduced it down to 350 seconds. Is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit it. There we go. Now Xerophon is a zombie, folks. Xerophon's a zombie. I'm going to park a familiar on there. And we're going to talk about the rest of their abilities. So, again, everything is built around the ultimate, and the specializations function to reduce the timer on the ultimate. However, the other abilities key off your choices. Adaptable increases the damage of all champions by 100%, further increased by 25% for each stack of adaptable Xerophon has. Each champion provides adaptable stacks based on the number of specializations that they do not qualify for. There is a buff for the inverse of what you're doing with your stacking with perfect imitation. Yeah, that's just the thing. They're giving you something for the downside, right? There is a world where, I haven't done this, and I should probably test it out. It feels like there's a world, if they keep their stacks, where you could specialize for the highest cooldown reduction, cap out their stacks, then change their specs and choose and make it so that that you're always choosing the lower one to max out adaptable. But I've never tested that. I don't know if they keep their stack. They feel like they should keep their stacks if you respec. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to find out. How many perfect imitation stacks do I have right now? Repeated imitation. I have one. Of course I only have one. I just did this. So let me just see if this resets real quick. Let's stop it. Stop it. Now, how many? Oh, it's not even gonna say, because I got to go back to this again. 4, 3, 2, 4. Okay. How many? Yeah, I still have one. Okay. So yes, that would work. That reality would work, folks, if you want to live in that reality. Okay. So adaptable is a thing, right? If you're doing a short run and you don't care about the ultimate for some reason, you could just choose the lowest stacks, I guess. But I don't know. I don't think that's really optimal. It might train your brain the wrong way there. Minion meets master. When the only enemy alive during perfect imitation is a boss, increase the damage bonus of perfect imitation by 25% per second, stacking multiplicatively. Now keep in mind, this only lasts as long as the ultimate lasts, and the ultimate's only up for 60 seconds. So if you clear all the regular enemies off, like the trash mobs, only the boss is left. You hit the ultimate. If you've got the damage to do that without the ultimate up, you've got 60 seconds. Well, you've got about 58, 59, 50, 55 seconds, if we count in like the delay on your DPS, primary DPS's base attack, to multiplicatively stack a 25% damage bonus, right? So if you use your ultimate, if you time it right on a boss, you could potentially ramp that damage up quite a bit, if you need it. If the boss doesn't die before you get to the end of the ramp. Repeated imitation. This is the actual stacking feature. It's based around the ultimate. This is the actual ramping in-game stacking feature that I'm referring to as ramping champion. Increase the damage bonus of perfect imitation by 5% each time it's used in an adventure. This stacks multiplicatively up to 500 times. Stacks reset when the adventure is reset. This is why this isn't a permanent stacking champion. They're what I call a ramping champion. So, stacking multiplicatively is the good way. It's 5%, and it stacks up to 500 times. Now, to get to 500, depending on what you get your cooldown to, could take either a long time or forever. Right. This is why you want to get Xerophon set up with as low a cooldown as possible, and give them as much time as possible to ramp up, because it's just a time function. It's just a time function. Shout out to the Dungeon Master. Dungeon Master's ultimate resets the longest cooldown ultimate of anyone in the party, and takes their cooldown with them. If you're gonna be serious about Xerophon, throw Dungeon Master in your party, and park a familiar, like trigger Xerophon's ultimate with a familiar, then trigger the Dungeon Master's ultimate with a familiar, and it toggles the cooldowns so that effectively you're going to get double credit every time you hit his ultimate, because it'll trigger, Dungeon Master will cool it down, and then it'll trigger immediately again. That's nice. That's nice. Weak Spot increases damage bonus of perfect imitation by 25% each time the enemy Xerophon is imitating, or an enemy with the same name is killed during that use of perfect imitation, stacking multiplicatively. So this is for this is the minion killer. So Minion Meat Master is the boss killer. Weak Spot is the minion killer. So you know, this could technically ramp up quite a bit, but again, you're limited by the 60 seconds of the ultimate. The 60 seconds of the ultimate. So the ultimate is effectively the full power button. While you hit it, everything is activated. All the buffs are activated, and you're going to ramp up some kind of damage during that, while also ramping long term. But once it's off, and then you have to survive until you can turn it on again. That's it, folks. It's pretty straightforward for Xerophon. Again, it is all about their ultimate, keeping their ultimate up as much as possible, with the right formation, you can get that cooldown reduction. You can get that the ultimate cooldown to a decent number. It's never going to be fast. It's never going to be fast in the current state of the game, but you can get it to a decent number. Item-wise, there is support, so a pair of damage all champions items. We can buff adaptable. We can buff Minion Meets Master. We can buff repeated imitation. Again, this is the stacking one. And we can buff Weak Spot. Folks, did you notice Xerophon, highly efficient champion when it comes to items. Everything boosts something about their damage capabilities, like their buffing capabilities. Damage all champions. Adaptable is the flip side to the spec choices. It's a damage bonus. Minion Meets Master is going to help you kill the bosses. Weak Spot's going to help you kill all the trash mobs. Repeated imitation. That great stacking feature, right? So Xerophon, super efficient with item levels because everything helps. Everything here helps. Feat-wise, damage all champions. You can shoot for adaptable bonus if you want. You can do Minion Meets Master, so we can do the boss killers. Again, we can toggle these in just for that level if we want. We can just straight up go for repeated imitation. That's the one I like. We can do Weak Spot. So you can really target very specific things with Xerophon. We have 3 stat feats, and that is so that you can take Xerophon with you into the patron stuff. Now, they're neutral, so they can't go to Mert ever. But with this one, they can go into Vajra. With this one, they can go into Strahd. And with this one, they can go into Zariel. So they can hit 3 out of the current 4 patrons with a feat. So Xerophon's pretty adaptable. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. Let's bring Freely in. I feel like everybody knows Freely. I don't know. Maybe not. Freely's Halfling Bard Warlock. Neutral good. There's support and gold fine champion. They function off of a debuff. So they're a big debuffer, and they're a multiplicative debuffer. That's the OP kind. They arrive from Heroes of the Plane, probably one of the most stacked affiliations in terms of standalone strong champions. Yeah, they just don't have the greatest affiliation bonus, and they have no actual DPS champion. So they are all about supporting other champions, but each of them super strong on their own. Base attack is Eldritch Blast. Beam of Aquamarine crackling energy streaks towards a random enemy. Yep. Okay, so right off the bat, their very first ability is what we're here to talk about. Adventurous Tale. This is a bit of a unique ramping feature because it's not about some kind of damage bonus. Adventurous Tale. For each area completed with freely in the formation, gain a bonus to the divine favor you earn when you complete your adventure. Freely's ramping feature is to get you more favor. Not only are they a gold find champion, they're going to help get you a lot of gold too. But they're going to then multiply everything you did with them so that when you hit that complete button, you get even more favor than you normally would have. And it's based on how many levels you completed with him in the formation. Note, he and Briv don't really get along. Because when you jump levels with Briv, you don't complete them. You skip them. Irony, since they're in the same affiliation. But you want Freely in from level 1. You want to leave Freely in. It will just keep going and going and going. So the longer you run with Freely, the better. Good news. Freely's super strong. Freely's super strong. So there's no reason not to have Freely in the formation, unless you're trying to ramp up one of either Black Viper or Xerophon, right? Like if you're going for one of these. But again, this comes down to like restrictions and variants or whatever. If you're just doing a free play, if you're doing an Azaka farm specifically, have Freely in from the beginning, because if you're going to take all the time to push deep and get lots of favor, you might as well get a little something extra for yourself at the end, right? So this is their ramping feature. It starts right away. It tracks everything they completed, and here's the bonus that a lot of people don't understand. If I have Freely in from level 1 and I push to level 1500, let's just say that's a thing I can do. It's not. Realistically, I've gotten to 1300. So let's say I go 1300 levels with Freely in my formation, but for whatever reason, I decide to take him out when Azaka farming because there's some other option that's better for gold find. There isn't, folks. I'm just being hypothetical. I can take Freely out of my formation. Everything I've earned still exists. That completion bonus still exists and will be affecting the favor I earn when I complete the run. Freely does not have to be in the run at the end, in the formation at the end of the run. He needs to have been, the key thing is to have him in from the beginning and for as long as possible. Again, that works because he's super strong. He's usually going to be in your formation at the end. But if for some reason in the future he's not there, doesn't matter. Whatever he has earned, whatever bonuses he has earned over here, areas completed, current bonus, this applies whether he's in the formation or not. He just can't earn stacks if he's not in the formation. Like I'm not, yeah. Because I hadn't leveled him up, he doesn't get a stack for level 1 here because I already completed this level. That's just the way it works. So you need to have him in as often as possible, as long as possible, but he doesn't necessarily have to be in at the end. Luck of Yandala, next ability. To find out what Luck of Yandala does, we actually have to go over here to the Formation Buffs tab. Hopefully that changes soon. This grants the Luck of Yandala to this champion. But then it states, each champion that attacks with the Luck of Yandala applies a random lucky break to enemies they hit for 15 seconds. But Gar, if it only gives Luck of Yandala to Freely, then why does it say each champion that attacks? Well, we'll get there. So, he has 4 lucky breaks he can apply. Opportunity, which visually is represented by a cornucopia. The target takes 100% more damage per application. Stacks multiplicatively. The total effect is increased by an additional percentage based off other stuff. So this is a multiplicative stacking debuff. That's the strong. That's the OP kind. It's applied every time he applies the opportunity lucky break. Requisition, represented visually by a fruit. The target drops more gold per application. This also stacks multiplicatively. So again, that's the OP kind. So Freely has an OP damage debuff and a OP debuff for enemies, making them take more damage, and an OP gold buff based off these stacks. Follow through, which is a border. There's this little art piece that gets made with a cornucopia and fruit and a border and a shield, and it's not visually the greatest. Mainly because it's either there or it isn't, it feels like, and it doesn't really signify how many. I haven't been able to figure out if it signifies how many stacks. I haven't seen it signify how many stacks each of these takes. So follow through is the border. Any champion who attacks the target will have their next base attack cooldown reduced by 0.1 second per application. So potentially they attack faster, which is good because every time a champion attacks, and we'll get to how we make that other people, they can apply a random lucky break. So attacking faster, good idea. Stagger is represented by a shield. The target has 2% per application chance to be stunned when they're attacked by any champion. So just a crowd control feature. It's okay. What we care about are opportunity and requisition. Opportunity and requisition. Opportunity, again, that debuff, causing enemies to take more damage. Requisition, the debuff causing them to drop more gold. All right. Unlucky for them, increases the effect of Freely's Luck of Yandala opportunity by 1%, applies to the post-stack value. So this is the buff. Unlucky for them is the buff to the debuff effect, the damage debuff effect. Yeah. Specialization. This is how we allow other people to have the Luck of Yandala. This is super important to using Freely correctly. Trust in the law makes Luck of Yandala apply to all lawful champions. So all champions that have lawful in their descriptor can now apply Luck of Yandala. Neutrality, neutral. All neutral champions on the lawful neutral chaotic axis. Chaos, all chaotic champions, right? So what are we talking about? Like, neutral, good. This is the side. We want the left side. Chaotic. This is a clue for the chaotic. Chaotic. Lawful. This would be the lawful. So we're talking about the left side, not the right side. If it said, do I have some... Oh, yeah, chaotic neutral. We're talking about chaotic here. If I chose neutral, it doesn't apply because this is the wrong neutral. This is the wrong neutral. Okay. Has to be the lawful neutral chaotic side. So if you see one of his options, if you see two of his options, like if you see neutral and one of his other options, that means that neutral is not the thing, folks. That neutral is not the thing. So we choose this. It is not just about the number of champions that qualify here. And I'll explain. If we go over here, Luck of Yandala, again, each champion that attacks with the Luck of Yandala applies a random lucky break to enemies they hit. Enemies, plural, that they hit. If you have an AoE champion that qualifies for Luck of Yandala, when they and the enemies are built up in front of you, and like let's say it's Minsk, and Minsk cleaves through them all, he applies a lucky break, one random lucky break to all of them. Okay. If you have a multi-hit champion, every hit to a different target could apply a different lucky break. So if you have lots of AoE champions, if you have like 2 AoE champions that are contributing to, like, if let's say the numbers are the same, you have 3 lawful, 3 neutral, 3 chaotic, but 2 of the lawful are AoEs, and all of the others in the neutral and the chaotic are single target. The AoE one's going to end up being better for you. Because when they're all stacked up, you're applying them to everything that you hit each time they attack. And again, each time they attack, they're applying a new lucky break, and potentially those are going to stack. It is Freely is very much a hope and pray champion, I guess. You kind of have to hope and pray they're stacking up correctly when they apply, because the game doesn't tell you. But we know that they are, because we can put Freely in and suddenly watch ourselves move much further than we have because of the multiplicative debuff, damage debuff. And we can see ourselves gaining more gold because of the multiplicative gold debuff, right? So keep that in mind. When you're making this choice, it's more than just the number of champions that qualify. I'm just going to pick chaotic because I'm not actually setting this up to do anything. But if I was, I would be taking a deeper look at who's in my formation to make sure I'm getting it right. Okay, cutting words. Interesting survival ability. It's kind of a formation placement. It's the only formation placement queue that you have for Freely. Increases the overwhelm point by 5 of tanking champions that are under attack and are within 3 adjacent slots of Freely. So they can raise the overwhelm point by 5. Keep in mind, this is a positional formation ability, which means Archon and Artemis can play with it and multiply that number. You can effectively negate. You can get over 100 overwhelm with Freely and the right, and like a usurper observe correctly. Meaning that you'll never, even with 100 enemies on the screen, you won't take any bonus damage. So just something to keep in mind. That's it. Yeah, that's it, right? He doesn't have a sneaky later one. Right, okay. Ultimate. I will not deafen. Freely grabs his sword and smashes into his opponent for massive damage. He also applies or refreshes all 4 lucky breaks on that enemy, if it is unlucky enough to survive. So this allows you to make sure that whatever enemy fighting has one of every debuff on it when you hit it. It's just kind of a little guarantee that you're at least going to have 1 stack on whatever you're hitting. I use this on bosses. I also use it when Azaka farming, just to make sure I've got, just to potentially give myself an extra gold stack on top of when I go to hit Azaka's ultimate. Because why not? Because multiplicative stacking, why not? It isn't super fancy visually. There you go. There's a nice little effect, but that's all we're looking at. All right, last champion, folks. I know we've gone real long, but this was the stacked group of difficult champions, apparently. Last week we went short. This week we went long. I see your questions in the document. We got a bunch of them. Martin's been grabbing them all, so I will get to them when we get to the question and answer period after I finish Corazon. Well, excuse me, Corazon. Every time I see this champion, I want to pronounce their name with this it screams Spanish, but that's not how the player pronounces their name. So Corazon. All right. Basic attack is Shadow Step. Corazon attacks a random enemy from the shadows. This is the core of their ramping feature, is their basic attack. So we'll get there. Pirate's Code. Corazon increases damage of all neutral on the good and evil axis champions in the formation by 1%. So good and evil is on the right. So he is an example of the kind of neutral you want. You want that neutral on the right hand side. If you see good or evil, if you see neutral good, neutral evil, that's not Corazon's bag. It's the neutral on the right side. Greece. Grease in combination with Corazon's ultimate makes Corazon have the best armor destroying ultimate in the game. The best. The best. Whenever Corazon attacks, he leaves behind a moderately sized puddle of grease under the enemy he attacked. Grease puddles do not hinder other champions, but do slow enemies passing through them by 25%. The maximum number of grease puddles on the screen at once is equal to the number of neutral champions, again, that same good evil axis, in the formation. So you can, right now we've got 3 grease puddles that we can put out. The effect of grease puddles stack multiplicatively if an enemy is standing in multiple puddles at once. That's the big deal. The effects can stack in terms of damage, but then when we combine them with the ultimate, it's going to get even worse. I'm going to remove the familiars here so you can see what they look like. You can see what the puddles look like. They're super obvious. There's one, right? That's what the grease puddles look like, folks. So yeah. Grease is the word. Honorary crewmates. All champions adjacent to Corazon are treated as neutral in addition to their actual alignment. This is fantastic. This means even if you're not using the champions that qualify for his bonus, you can just make them qualify by placing him adjacent to them. We can modify this too with a specialization. But yeah, he's like, hey, I'm super restrictive about who I'll hang out with. But as long as you're next to me, you qualify, right? So there we go. All right, specialization. This can either change that who he changes to be neutral, or it changes where he places his grease puddles. So distant crewmates. Corazon's honorary crewmates ability now affects all non-adjacent champions. So in this, you could put him here, and you could turn everyone around him into neutral. That's fantastic. Or if you switch to that other specialization, you could put him here, and it makes everybody in the front then qualify for that. So it's kind of a formation layout type of thing, and where you can place Corazon, you might want to do this. That's what you're looking at when making that decision. Mage Hand, on the other hand, grease puddles now form under the furthest enemy from the formation instead of under the enemy attacked. Effect of the puddles is increased by 10% multiplicatively. Mage Hand makes the puddles stronger, but places them in a very specific location. Now, if you're on a trash mob level, infinitely spawning enemies like this, and they stack up and they're just stacking up, say you stack up 100 of them, well, the grease puddles are just going to all be right in front of the formation because all the enemies are right in front of the formation. But if some are constantly streaming in, all the grease puddles are going to end up on the right hand of the screen. So why would you want this? Stationary bosses. Stationary bosses. Those super annoying armored or hit-based bosses that just sit in the back and let all their infinitely spawning enemies be meat shields to keep you from attacking them. Mage Hand. Mage Hand, the cantrip that does everything it can. I can't remember the song lyrics right now. The Lurking Rider knows. So, Mage Hand. It's amazing. It's amazing. You drop you select Maze Hand. I'm gonna choose Maze Hand, but you select Mage Hand. Suddenly Seymour. No, that's the wrong thing. Suddenly every single grease puddle is going to be dropping behind that stationary boss. The boss is like, it just slows me. This doesn't do anything. I don't even move. Why do I care if I'm slowed? And then you drop the ultimate. All right, let's get a puzzle out here. Fiery bombardment. Corazon ship, the joyful damnation, fires flaming cannonballs from afar. Flaming cannibals. That's a whole other skin. This bombardment damages all enemies and lights all existing grease puddles on fire for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Enemies in the flaming grease puddles are dealt 1/30th the ultimate's damage per second and takes 100% more damage while the puddle is on fire. If you have, I don't know, 6 grease puddles under a stationary boss, and then you light them all on fire, and they start taking damage every second, it erases them. I have stacked up 3 or 4 grease puddles underneath a stationary armored boss, hit my ultimate, and before the ultimate animation could even finish, the boss was dead. It just erased them from the screen. There's probably a bug there because it should take a few seconds, right? Don't care. Love it. Best ultimate in the game for destroying armored bosses. And keep in mind, that doesn't mean you don't have to use Corazon in your pushing formation, because the ultimate's based off Bud. You just have to set your Bud, swap Corazon in, let him get some attacks off, stack up however many puddles he can, then hit the ultimate and move on, and then go back and switch back to whoever you were using. Corazon, along with just being a pirate, which means it's cool and you should have, Corazon definitely someone you should have. Human Rogue, Ox Ventures Guild. Sorry, I forgot that at the top. However, we've talked about some really cool things Corazon does, and we haven't talked about the ramping feature. I just said it's based off their base attack, right? Goat Pirate. Increases the effect of Pirate's Code. That's this buff up here for all champions. Increases the effect of Pirate's Code by 1% each time Corazon attacks. Stacking additively. Lasts until the adventure completes. The more Corazon attacks an adventure, the more stacks he gets, the bigger his straight up buff, all champions damage buff is. Again, it's for neutral champions, but again, he can turn anybody he wants neutral. So just pure damage buffage the more he attacks. This is why you want him in at the beginning. This also means he kind of synergizes well with champions that buff your attack speed, right? Like Whittle, like Human in the right place. Although, aren't they in the same? Yeah, they're in the same thing. Like Whittle, like Whittle, right? We haven't had him in a super long period of time, but I've already got 37 stacks. I'm already buffing up a little bit, right? He is definitely a slow burn champion. You definitely want him in for as long as possible. Yeah. But it's all based off him attacking. While you're killing with click damage, he's not going to really get a lot of attacks off, folks. But once you get past that, it's gonna start triggering a lot. Item-wise, damage all champions' items. Pirate's Code, so that buff. Goat Pirate, so we can just straight up, not only can we buff Pirate's Code, we can buff the thing that rampingly buffs Pirate's Code. Sure. Ultimate attack damage, because yes, please. And ultimate cooldown reduction, right? Feat-wise, damage all champions. We can go into Pirate's Code. Again, that's that straight buff. We can also do the goat. We can also buff the goat. There's a new, like an 80% Pirate's Code. So 80% Pirate's Code and 40% goat is the goat. That's it for our Ramping Champions for today. We're going to take a quick musical break. And we'll come back. I will hit all the questions. There's a couple dozen. So yeah, I'll try to get all of those through. We only got about 40 minutes left, but I should be able to get through all of those. I'll go ahead and trigger our motion forward here. I think this is Freely's song, everyone. Enjoy.
At the door, don't know how I got in here, but now I'm laying on the floor. Another day, another fight, lights of evil left a smile. I stand up tall and pull my sword, time for them to feel my mind. No keep on shining when there's lives on the line. Always falling into trouble, failing where I thought I'd be. If there's someone that's in need, that's where you find lucky freely. Always falling from the sky, fire blasting from my eyes. Gonna get there on the double, I live life as a surprise. Don't wait, no need to plan, get ready, gonna go. It's hero in time, my power's divine, time to stop out the crime. It's hero in time, it's lucky for shines when there's lives on the line. I can burst and think and last, that's how I will today. Never fight a true flash, that's the freeway. It's hero in time, my power's divine, time to stop out the crime. It's hero in time, it's lucky for shines when their lives on the line. Yeah, it's hero in time, my power's divine, time to stop out the crime. It's hero in time, it's lucky for shines when there's lives on the line.
And we're back, folks. And we're back. I'm going to hit the questions that are... Oh, there we go. Okay. It took the captions a minute to correct it. But all right. I'm going to hit the questions that are relevant to the topic today. Then I'll go back and I'll hit all the rest. So if I overlook your question, it's just I'm going to come back to it. Lurking Rider... I'm nod to this because it's semi-relevant. You say ramping champions, but none of them have skateboards. What gives? Surely we should have an Aarakocra Ranger called Tony as a champion by now. I am here for a Tony Hawk Idle Champions crossover. I'm here for it. But yeah, not that kind of ramp. PMM 3437. Oh no, we'll come back to that one. Sorry, that isn't on topic. I can read. Lurking Rider with an actual question. So, by your metrics, would Corazon fall into this category? Yes, that's why we talked about him today. His Goat and Pirate's code abilities increasing more times. Yeah. Yeah, we got there. If Elliewick's lore has her as a planeswalker, why no D&D equivalent planeswalker abilities? I mean, they had to give her something. They built everything around the deck of many things, and that was it. As far as I know, it's just, it's all built around the deck of many things. So, this is a D&D version of her. So, yeah. Galabon, for Elliewick, if you draw Fates, would you consider using a giant strength potion to offset it? You might. It just depends. So the Fates is the one that turns off all of her buffs, by all of the stacks you've earned. Again, if it's slowing you, if it's causing you problems and you're unable to progress, you're going to have to try to do something to continue if you want to keep using her. If you have to use a potion right away, you're not going to get 100 levels. But it might get you the last 1 or 2, but you might need multiple potions. Like, you might have to stack multiple potions. If you stack multiple of the same type of potion, like the multiple sizes, they all affect each other multiplicatively. Except for Fire Breath, that's an additively. But yeah, so you would have to do something to try to offset that loss if it's happening near your wall. Where do you get Xerophon from, Bilsowski? Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, an adventure called a variant called A Lesson in Classes. It tends to be the one that that gets submitted the most to formation save, because basically you're only allowed to use any given class once in the formation. So if you have multi-class champions, they can actually hinder you, and so you have to build a formation based off the champions you have, where they're either single class champions, or if you use a dual class champion, that champion has to be strong enough on their own to make up for whoever you might have used from one of their other classes, right? It's challenging. I like it. I love the challenges that Evergreen Unlock variants provide. Not everybody apparently does. Some people just have real troubles with that one, and they need some help. Silly Simon, Adventurous Tale, is it meant to stack in background runs or just the foreground? I know it works in your active party. I have never tested it in a background party. One of the problems with the current iteration of background and / offline progress is that not all abilities work in the background. They're currently supposedly rewriting offline / background progress from the ground up, using all of the knowledge that they've gained with their first iteration of it. They realized, well, we actually can't fix this iteration. We need to start from scratch and build a new iteration with all of these things we learned in mind, so that it's easier to easier to make all abilities apply, and B, easier to work with, but for the devs on the back end. So when that happens, ideally it will happen. Does Adventurous Tale work in the background now? I've never tried it. I don't know. I've never tried. Hufik, does Freely need to be in the formation when I click End Adventure for Adventurous Tale to apply? Nope. Lurking Rider, as far as I know, he needs to complete one area, right? Yeah, at least one area. You need to have Freely in for at least one area to get a bonus, but that bonus would be tiny, right? Like 0.247% for me here. That's not really worth it. But as you complete more and more areas, like you see I'm at 12 areas completed, it's already up to like 3%. You can see this reflected over here. Here's the normal total I would get. Here's the bonus I'm getting from Freely. Right? This bonus over here is this Freely's Adventurous Tale bonus. If I pull Freely out, this bonus is still here. It's just no longer going to go... It's going up at the moment, but that's because the favor's going up. But it's no longer going to increase the stacks if he's not in when I complete an area. Sailnet, so Freely, the only thing that ramps is the favor game. Right. That is his ramping bonus. But people like favor in this game. So I'm told. Raumus, do we know for certain with Freely, since it doesn't show stacks, that you get multiple of the same stacks on a given enemy? Or do the stacks mentioned refer to one stack for each type? We know for certain that you can get multiple stacks, and we know this because it specifically states stacks multiplicatively. If you could only get one stack, it wouldn't even say that. It wouldn't say stacks multiplicatively. It wouldn't say per application. It wouldn't say stacks additively. So we know multiple stacks are applied. We also know this because when we put Freely in, if it was just that one bonus, we go much, much further than we would just off one single stack. And we gain much, much more gold than we would off one single stack. So there's multiple ways we know. And when it's talking about the ultimate, it's placing one of each of the lucky breaks. Not multiple stacks of them, just one of each. Now, if there were already stacks, they're getting one additional of each. Remember, though, his stacks they're not sticky. They don't linger. They don't linger. They reset after 15 seconds. There's a minimal little bit of sticky, but generally Freely needs to be in constantly for this to happen. Demon Gird, does Freely's Adventurous Tale feats only take effect if applied throughout the run, or can they be swapped in at the end of the run for the same effect? Oh god, I didn't talk about Freely's feats. I didn't talk about Freely's items either. Damage all champion item. Requisition, this is the gold find bonus. Unlucky for them, this is the debuff bonus. Adventurous Tale, his items buff the favor bonus. Ultimate and ultimate cooldown. Oh, jeez. I have the wrong feats in right now. Increased damage all champions. There's gold find. There's more gold find by Requisition Lucky Break. These are the good gold find ones. There's 2 Adventurous Tale feats, so we can boost that favor bonus. And there's 2 Unlucky for them feats, so we can boost the damage bonus. As long as these are in at the end of the run, they apply. So Freely has this weird thing. You want to start off Unlucky for them. This is going to maximize the debuff. If you can soft cap your champions, you start off with Unlucky for them to get the maximum debuff. If you can't, you start off with gold find stuff to get more gold to upgrade your champions to get more powerful, because the numbers are bigger with upgrades than they are with feats. So Unlucky for them to push. Then you switch, when you're Azaka farming, you switch over and you do Requisition Lucky Break to get the gold find multipliers. Then when you've finished your Azaka farm and you're right before you reset, you switch into Adventurous Tale. And then you reset. And when you start your next run, you go back to Unlucky for them. He's really finicky. He's probably one of the biggest reasons I think people would love to have feats saved with formation saves. In terms of for Freely and Corazon, MC Solid, what's the difference between word on the left and one on the right when it comes to alignment? You state we look at the left one for Freely specialization, so what's the word on the right at the alignment title stand for? These are Dungeons and Dragons terms. These are alignment. There's 2 axes for alignment, if you want to think of it like this, like math class. One of them is lawful, neutral, chaotic, and the other is good, neutral, evil. Both sides can have neutral. That's what throws people off. But both axes can have neutral. The left, on screen, I guess if you're looking, the left is lawful, neutral, chaotic. The right, good, neutral, evil. They're always going to be either on the left or the right. So, for Freely's, he wants either lawful, neutral, or chaotic. Well, you don't see lawful or chaotic show up anywhere. You only show neutral, so you know he's neutral on that alignment. For Corazon wants, on the good, neutral, evil axis, he wants neutral. Well, because I see neutral and good, that means this Freely doesn't qualify for Corazon. Right? Because I can see the good that he doesn't like. The same would be true with the evil, like for Archon, right? The nice thing about Corazon is he can make everyone neutral along with whatever they are. But with Freely, you really have to pay attention. Yeah. It's also a thing with other champions, but with this specifically, that's what we're talking about. Ramus, to follow up my question a minute ago, the ultimate for Freely seems to suggest only 1 stack of each type of... Yeah. The ultimate is just applying 1 of each of the lucky breaks. 1 stack of each. What happens if you upcast Grease? Unfortunately, for upcasting Grease here, in my head, it's making sure the formation has... Like if you were to... You could do this. Oh, man. You could save a formation called Grease... or Grease is the word, or whatever you want to name your formation, max Grease, and you could build a formation that gives you maximum stacks, maximum numbers of puddles, and you could build up your bud, and then you could hotkey load that formation in. That would effectively be upcasting Grease, because you'd be stacking up 9 or 10 stacks of Grease Lightning. There we go. That's what we'd call it. We'd be stacking 9 or 10. I knew we'd get there, chat. Of those, and then launching Fiery Bombardment and just absolutely destroying armored enemies. That would be to me, that's upcasting Grease in this game. Zim, does Corazon's auto count stack faster in off mode like Briv stacks or not? I don't know. I haven't tested it. Offline mode is weird. Sometimes. I have not tested those little iterations. When I use Corazon, I just put them in and let them Thought about grease fire. That would also be good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, that's all of the on-topic questions. Let's go hit the off-topic, which is fine. We're all about the off-topics. We're also all about the hot topic, but that's a whole other thing. PMM3437, is there a compelling reason to timegate Baloth over Sentry on a month-old account to satisfy slot 4 split the party? Yes. Sentry gives me a 4 to a Sharabond at my wall for additional pushing. Otherwise, Jarlax will be in for gold fine 95% of the rest of the time. Baloth gives you pushing power and gold find at the same time. So real nice. Also has an ability called Generous Gin, and if you learn to Gin stack, which you can find if you find one of my videos on YouTube where that includes Baloth, we'll talk about Gin stacking. It can be a major damage bonus for pushing. I get that you're trying to satisfy a Sharabonds, but you might want to, if you're trying to use a Shar, you might want to satisfy that bond in a different way, because Baloth and some other bond is ultimately going to be a better combination. Because Jarlaxle being in your formation does nothing except give you gold. Whereas Baloth is going to give you gold and pushing power means more gold as well, because the further you can push, the more gold enemies drop. Tomatonator, holy man, did they design Gosrick after you? No. Gosrick is a champion from Rivals of Waterdeep. One of the streamers there designed Gosrick. Respect to the beard, how long you've been growing? I don't know, years now. I just trimmed it yesterday too. I literally just it was off the screen, but in a wispy way, and so I just chopped the bottom off of it. Bill Slowski, where do we get Blushi and Rhea from? Rhea is from Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. It is from the variant called Rhea Reborn. It's towards the end of Baldur's Gate. Challenging variant. I've got a guide for that. Blushi is Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Wild Beyond the Witchlight variant called Bully for You. That one's fun. I like it. It tickles the puzzle part of my brain. I really enjoy it. I just updated my guide to Blushi as well. Rhea is fairly updated. The formation isn't probably accurate, but the tips in there for building a formation are correct. It's one of the few variants in the game where tanks aren't really necessary. It's probably better if you don't have lots of them. Whereas Blushi is... I updated Blushis. I specifically tried to explain my tactic for what I call burning slots to make sure you end up with whatever formation you actually want by the end of the variant. I don't know how well I explained it. It's almost a better visually done, and unfortunately I don't have a VOD for that. Mirakira, I finished the first Split the Party. How can I get another Modron Core? Split the party again. The first Split the Party needs 2 champions in every slot. If you get 3 champions in every slot, you get to split the party again. If you get 4 champions in every slot, you get to split the party again. The first core you get is the Modest Core. The second one is the Fast Core, so that's the speed one. And the third is the Magic Core. That's the newest one. It is a glass cannon damage core for magic base attackers. Specifically. I mean, it can be used with some others because of the stat bonuses, but you'd be ignoring the magic bonus. There is a strong core that you can buy with 500,000 gems. It's currently not worth buying, in my opinion. In most people's opinion, I think. Yo, Dice Goblin, how do you report a bug if the game freezes before you can even get to the main menu? You can go straight. There's links, I think, in the Discord where you can go straight to the support page and submit it. That's your best option. Or posting in the Discord in the bug channel specifically for that. There's also an email. Yeah, there's also an email address that you can send in an email to. It's idle, just idlechampions at codenameentertainment.com, or is it something else? No, it's. He's going to put it in chat. Martin will put it in chat. But yeah, I like just going to the support page. I like to keep a link to the support page. Also, if they've ever replied, like if they've ever emailed back that you've got a thing and you can click here and go to your support list, you can always click on an old email to take yourself to your support page, your version of the support page. But yeah, there are other ways to get there. There are other ways to get there. S11493, looking at picking up another slot 5. I have Calliope, Briv, Keelik, and Xander. How did you get Xander? Recommendations. Dadius is great at magic support. So if you're trying to it's intelligence support, I believe, but that's usually casters. So if that's the type of DPS you're using, Dadius is an option. Viconia is a lot of fun just with Animate Dead. Sometimes you just want a fun champion. So there's a couple options. Sudian, any tips for farming Tiamat favor in the Avernus campaign? Is an Azaka formation the way to go? Generally speaking, Azaka formation is always your best bet for farming favor. What I'm going to say is people have a lot of trouble farming, getting favor in Avernus. Avernus requires a lot of favor for their higher level blessings. It's not going to be something that you can just grind. Because Avernus is the first of the hard campaigns. You need to get power from more than just favor. So you can't get there. You can't get more just by upgrading your champions. More favor isn't necessarily, once you've hit soft cap, more favor isn't going to get you a lot of progress. What you need to do is you need to get more power from other places. A lot of the early game is focused on just you accumulating power through favor, and then just upgrading your champions. But this is only one kind of pillar of progress in the game. There's also it triggers favor, triggers upgrades, it triggers blessings. That's great. But to go higher, you need to get patron perks. You need to get which really truly unlock once you start completing Avernus. There are variants in there that can, like, you knock 2 or 3 of them out. They're really straightforward and easy, and comparatively, and you can max out like tier 4, tier 5 blessings for all patrons with that. So patron perks, your Modron cores, not just getting them, but leveling them up to 15 and getting their flow to epic. That's a lot of power. The difference between no Modron core and a level 15 modest core with just epic flow, not supercharged flow, just epic, is over 100 areas of progress. That's a lot of extra gold for you. You also need, if you just run through the base storyline of Avernus, which is very straightforward. It's not super hard. The final battle is challenging, not going to lie, but it's easier than doing the variants. You will unlock Trials of Mount Tiamat and thus the Legendary Forge, and you can start accumulating power through legendary items. That's a big deal. And around that time, you also you've probably got a mix of blue and purple gear on champions that you're using, and it's time to start focusing your time gates and a focused opening of patron chests to try to full epic your champions. You can also then start applying more blacksmithing contracts for power, right? So you start transitioning. Baldur's Gate is kind of it's going to force you to start transitioning into a broader mode of thinking about the game, other than just favor is my power. It's going to make you find power from all of these other places. They're gonna build power slower than favor. Favor is the fast one, but it hits a wall. hits a wall, and then you've got to find power somewhere else. MC Solid, for example, for Merowyn's neutral party bonus, is existence of the neutral word enough? There's no difference. Neutral is written on the right or left line. Hold on. Merowyn. Go away. A neutral party. Merowyn increases damage of all neutral, good, evil axis champions in the formation. So again, Merowyn wants champions that are neutral on the good, evil axis. So this would be neutral champions that say either neutral, like her, because if it just says neutral, that means they're neutral. Some people call this true neutral. They're neutral, completely neutral. But Merowyn wants lawful neutral, chaotic neutral, or it only says neutral. Okay, again, she synergizes with her own affiliate, Corazon, because Corazon can turn anybody this kind of neutral. So if your DPS isn't already this kind of neutral, like Ashara is a lawful neutral DPS, would work with Merowyn. But if your DPS isn't already this kind of neutral, Corazon can make them that way, right? So they're kind of built to really work together. Especially since I think there isn't the Ox of Venturer's DPS not neutral? Pretty sure it's not. Wait, isn't that Prudence? Yeah, chaotic evil. So their DPS, they work together a group as by ultimately Corazon turns her neutral, and then Merowyn can buff her, right? Yeah. So yes, there is a neutral that is only represented as neutral. That qualifies for any kind of neutral, but everybody else you have to look at which axis it's on. Lightning Hawk, I'm at 8 weeks in and have unlocked Trials of Tiamat a few days ago. Should I dive right in or wait a bit? Oh, dive right in. Trials of Mount Tiamat is like Split the Party. If you qualify for it, you can do it. The caveat here is Trials of Mount Tiamat has 10 tiers of difficulty. So when I say you can dive right in and do it, it means you can dive right in at the lower tiers. You'll figure out real quickly if you're being carried or contributing as you move up tiers. But you can at very least do tier 1, whatever the normal version of it is. Heck, you can even do it by yourself, honestly. You can do tier 1 solo. It's just it goes faster and it's easier when you do things with other people. So you can do it right away, and you want to start doing it right away because you're going to at least be earning some scales for just doing that. And those scales are what you can then turn 1 a week, because you really currently in the current iteration of Trials in the Legendary Forge, you only want to forge 1 item a week. So you want to start at least triggering those forged items 1 a week as soon as possible, since it is kind of time gated that way. Oh, hey, I finished my trials. But yeah, so I got EO4 scales of Tiamat from my run, but I did a much higher run. So yours I can't go in and show, but yours would be lower, and then you come over here, and it starts off at a base cost of 1,000 to forge an item, and then it goes up after you do that, and then it goes down over time, which is why you only want to do one a week. When the cost gets down to 11 or below, then you forge again, which I just did last night, so that's why mine's super high. Then you can start making decisions about do I want to use the rest of some of the rest of my scales to upgrade it? You can. You just want to make sure you're always holding on to 11 or higher the scales so that you can always get that next one right away. Chaotic seems to me to be either chaotic neutral or perhaps either chaotic. Chaotic doesn't exist in D&D. I mean, if you're talking about, again, it's chaotic good, chaotic neutral, or chaotic evil. So you're trying to determine. I mean, this is going to be this is the how good and evil and neutral get determined is different for different people. To me, the differences between good and evil is do I do selfless things? Do I do things for other people? That would be good. Or do I do selfish things only for myself? That's kind of evil. Now, that doesn't mean that if you do things for yourself, you're evil. It just means if that's all you ever think about is if your intention through every act you ever commit in life is purely for your own gain, D&D terms, you're evil, right? If you're some mix of selfless and selfish, some kind of balance, you'd be neutral. You might your neutral is more situational dependent, right? So chaotic would be, I think, for people looking on the outside and not understanding. Chaotic neutral would kind of be chaotic because they look at a person and they're just. It seems like they're changing their selfish all the time. Well, it's because they're making situational decisions instead of trying to adhere more towards one side or the other, right? And then lawful neutral chaotic is more about how they exist in reference to the world around them. Do they follow the accepted laws of society? Or their society, because you can be lawful evil. You're following accepted, like devils. You're following accepted rules of engagement. You're just doing it in a very selfish way, right? Whereas neutral is, well, again, situationally dependent. Am I following the law? Am I not? Depends on the situation. Whereas chaotic is just, who cares about rules? I'm never going to follow those. Like, it's just, yeah. Again, it depends on how people want to view these things, but that tends to be what people are looking at. We got about 7 minutes left. Alyssa 501, is there an order to which items I should legendary forge first, or is it personal preference? The item specifically itself doesn't matter. The champion does. Each champion, regardless of which item I click on here, the potential bonuses are going to be the same for the champion. It really doesn't matter which one I'm applying. Like, the item that I'm applying the bonus to doesn't matter. So what you're looking at is you're choosing your champion that you want to put an item on first. I personally recommend starting with support champions that are in the main formations that you use. So if say Freely, like I said, Freely is in. He's great in all kinds of places. If I'm using Freely in all my deep push formations, then I would want to forge a legendary on Freely because I'm using him everywhere. And hey, look at that! I've got 2 of them. Because if I can put him in, he's going to be in, right? So I make the decisions that way, and I don't and then I left the DPS till later, because the DPS might change depending on where I'm at, variants and restrictions. I tried to put 1 on each champion I was using to spread my gained power out, so that if I had gone all in, say on Ashara, if Ashara ever got restricted out or nerfed, well, then I would lose all of that accrued power. Whereas if I spread it all out, I could lose a champion and still have the majority of my power. So that's the way I like to look at how you're deciding who to put a legendary on. Devicetron, I'm quite new to the game. Welcome to the game. I have my first time gate pieces collected. Nice. Did you know there's a free time gate weekend right now? You can do one of these three. It will give you a completely different set of 3 champions, most likely. But you could do one of those for free, and you don't have to spend time gate pieces. That's a good thing. Go do that. Is there any hero I would want to get first to progress by manually opening a time gate? My general recommendation here is Krull. Krull doesn't work with Jarlaxle, but once you've moved past Jarlaxle to, say, like Hitch or some other DPS, Krull provides debuffs that help you push. He provides gold that helps you upgrade, but also that gets you more favor. Favor then provides gold that lets you upgrade more. Krull is an early game snowball champion to get you favor and blessings and progress. Later on, he can be phased out, but early on, he's still my go-to if I have a choice to choose a first champion. Last couple questions. Don't need to grab any more, Martin. SLM, how do I know which champ's gear I should use scales on first? Again, it isn't about, I think I already answered that one. It isn't about the piece of gear. It's just choosing the champion. I pick based off flavor. I just pick the item based off flavor. It really doesn't matter. Joan of Arc, once you have all epics on core and evergreen champions, how do you recommend prioritizing epping out event champions? Should you start with the ones you use most, then those that qualify for patron chests? Yes. Start with the ones you use most. And whose gear is super efficient. Like Avern is more efficient with his gear because of his mirror image applies multiple times. If they have a major items, you start with that first. But otherwise, it's just everybody that's being used. And once you get all their bonuses, like if you get lucky and you get all their damage bonuses, or like their buffing bonuses, but you don't have like their ultimate cooldown, and their ultimate isn't a thing that you really care about, you can just move on, right? Final question. I am Semoth. Why can't we see stats in time gate thing? I don't know what stats you're referring to. That's a dev question, and then they've decided to put whatever stats they want to put in there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a dev. All right, folks, that's going to be in the stream. I think there's rebroadcasts after me today. I think that's the thing. However, over on my channel, I'll be live, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr, in an hour-ish. I need to get lunch. And today, though, we'll be playing super throwback. We're playing Final Fantasy 1, the very first Final Fantasy, the Pixel remaster version. It's so much fun. It's just nostalgic joy, but I also really enjoy. I found out, I was like, am I going to enjoy playing this? It's real old. Nah, still enjoy it. So you can come hang out in an hour while we do that for the rest of the day. Thank you to Martin for pulling all the questions. Thanks, everybody. We're out. We're on our way out. I think this is Sergeant Noxus song. Bye, everyone.
Here we go. He was born with an axe in hand, standing ready to defend the land. Went from cradle to the wall to see the foes of never win or fall. When Valendra unleashed a scourge, he was there to perform the purge. From the bridges, gates, cliffs, and docks comes the legend known as Sergeant Nox. This former mercenary always retakes the city, unites us all with his rolling call. He's gonna knock you out, leave you seeing stars, gonna break your lies, leave you lasting scars. He's gonna knock you out, call the thunder down, gonna bring the hurt, driving death out of town. the blessed absolute calm. His answer echoed off the marble halls. If you're looking for a helping hand, keep an eye out for this giant man. Celeste will do the healing with Mako's damage dealing, and in the front all night is holding the line. He's gonna knock you out, leave you seeing stars, gonna break your lies, leave you lasting scars. He's gonna knock you out, call the thunder down, gonna bring the hell, driving death out of town. Solo over this.